Today on Legally Yes, Todd and Julie Chrisley are involved in an adoption drama over their grandchild. Plus, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie face off once again, and we break down everything you need to know about Balenciaga's disastrous and tasteless ad campaign. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, welcome to Legally Us. I'm Christina, and that's of course Nima Rahmani, president of West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor. Nima, welcome back. We got a lot to get to today.
Hi, Christina. Excited to be here.
Yes, definitely. So obviously, Todd and Julie Chrisley have been in the news a lot lately. They are going to be headed to prison relatively soon, but they have a lot of loose ends to clear up. And this is something that's very interesting. So the mother of Todd and Julie Chrisley's adopted daughter claims she is fighting to regain custody amid their legal woes. So Angela Johnson, who welcomed their daughter Chloe in 2012, addressed her plans to take legal action, telling TMZ, "I want her home. She deserves to be home. I'm her biological mom. I didn't walk away from her. I was pushed out of her life." She said that she is in the process of filing paperwork, and she, of course, shares Chloe with Julie's son, Kyle. The daughter is 10 years old now, and they shared custody of the daughter back in 2014. Kyle, for his part, lost custody in 2013. Todd and Julie obtained full custody of their granddaughter in 2016 after the mother was arrested for allegedly defrauding Medicaid and food stamps. So Jessica Doyle, who is the family attorney who Todd and Julie used during the adoption process, told People magazine that Angela's claims are simply not legally correct or even valid. She said, "I handled the formal adoption of Chloe by Todd and Julie Chrisley. Angela Johnson's parental rights were terminated when she voluntarily surrendered her parental rights to Todd and Julie back in 2017, and she has no contact with the daughter since 2015. So since Todd and Julie are going to prison for a very lengthy period of time, does Angela have any chance in getting Chloe back?
Yeah, fraud seems to run in the family.
Right, seriously.
But this is where the law makes a huge distinction between adoption and guardianship. And if the reports are correct that Todd and Julie adopted their granddaughter, then the biological mother, Angela, has no rights whatsoever. It's like she never had the child. That terminates those parental rights. Now, guardianship is different. If it was permanent or temporary, she could try to come back, petition the court for a change order. But once an adoption is finalized, you lose all rights to the child. And it seems, at least from what's being reported, that that's what's happened here.
Interesting. So what happens to Chloe now? She's only 10. Obviously, the parents are going away for, 10 plus years. So what happens to Chloe? Will she be in with their daughter, Savannah, who's in her 20s? She said that she's going to be taking care of the couple's other minor child. So what happens to Chloe in this situation?
Yeah, Savannah's probably the front runner here to take care of Chloe, because she's obviously taking care of other children. Now, normally what courts want to do in this type of case is place the children with a relative. That's always going to be the ideal situation. There's foster care, there's other potential placements, but if they can find a relative that's willing and able to take care of these kids, that's always going to be the number one choice for family law courts.
Got it. So it would be up to Savannah then if she wanted to have Angela come back into their daughter's life.
Absolutely. So, to the extent that Savannah is taking care of Chloe, she is Chloe's legal guardian. She can certainly allow Angela, the biological mother, to visit, but at the same time, she can also deny access. Angela has no rights. Those rights have been terminated. So it's going to be interesting to see what the court decides, who's going to take care of these young children. And if it's Savannah, then she'll be the decision maker, the sole decision maker as to who will be able to have access to the kids.
Interesting. So like you said, even if these people are going away for a long period of time, the law is the law. And she really has, even Angela and Kyle, they really have no rights to Chloe.
No rights at all. Once that adoption is finalized, that's it. There's no going back. So it's really important that, if Angela and Kyle, they really wanted to maintain a relationship with their child, they should not have agreed to that adoption, because once that ink is dry, it's too late to go back.
Nice to go back. All right. Well, let's move on to Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, because for some reason this is still going on. So they're still fighting over this ownership of their Chateau Miraval winery. In new court documents, Angelina slammed Brad's claims that she is selling her portion of the winery with the intent to inflict harm on him by entering into a sale with a stranger. She said that this is frivolous, malicious, and part of a problematic pattern. So the documents added that Brad's allegations that he and Miss Jolie had a secret, unwritten, unspoken contract to a consent right on the sale of their interest of the property is directly contrary to the written record and, among other legal defects, violative of the statute of frauds and public policy. So this comes after an email resurfaced explaining why she wanted to sell her part of the property. She basically said that she did not want to be involved in this anymore, that the place kind of brought up some really bad memories. And she said, I could no longer be involved publicly or privately in a business based on alcohol when alcoholic behavior harmed our family so deeply, and that the business is therefore past the point of anything that she could be a part of morally and for the good of her family. She said that she wishes the best in the business, but and she hopes that the children feel differently about Miraval in the future. So this is pretty nasty. In September, she sued Brad for $250 million, saying he masterminded a so far successful plan to control the winery. She sold part of her winery to a stranger, as Brad said, and he did not want any part of this.
Yeah, so really sort of nasty divorce, and it continues. We saw it with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Now we're seeing with Brad Pitt and Angelina. So, I have to sort of question the lawyering by Brad Pitt's family law divorce attorneys, because if this was something that was important to him, this is a huge property. They got married there. It's
right.
Worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This is something that you gotta get in writing, because absent some agreement not to sell, doesn't matter whether it's your ex-wife or business partner, everyone generally has a right to sell their portion of a piece of property or a business. So that's why Brad Pitt is scrambling to say, hey, there's this agreement, because absent some agreement, Angelina can do what she wants with her half of Miraval.
Right. So what is she trying to do with these latest court documents? Obviously this email resurfaced saying that she doesn't really want any part of it. So is she just trying to kind of hammer this point home?
Yeah. So the email, Brad saying, well, this is some sort of agreement where she walked away and she relinquished her right to the property. I don't read the email that way. And Angelina's lawyers raised an important defense, the statute of frauds. So you can have a verbal agreement or you can have a written agreement, and they're generally binding in the state of California, except some specific types of agreement have to be in writing to be valid. And agreements to buy or sell property have to be in writing. Now, this would be something a little different. It would be an agreement and not to sell property. Mm-hmm. So that's why Angelina is arguing that, look, this agreement would have to be in writing. Brad, you don't have a writing, so I can do what I want with my share of the winery.
Right. So did she already sold this stake to somebody else? So does Brad want those new owners to sell him their stake of the company? Do you think that he'll be forced to sell? Where do you think this kind of ends up?
Yeah, Brad's trying to unwind that sale to the Russian oligarch. So he wants the entire winery, or at least to maintain that 50-50 split with his ex. He certainly doesn't want to be working with some stranger in another country. So what he's trying to do is say, hey, Angelina, you had no right to make that sale. So we're going to go back, we're going to unwind it and put the parties in the position they were based on this agreement not to sell. The question is, does that agreement exist?
Right. In the resurfaced email and some other court documents, Angelina does always kind of bring it back to the kids a little bit. Is that her just playing dirty, or, what's kind of her tactic there?
Well, this is a nasty divorce. And if this case goes to trial, it's going to be very, very public. So we know family law cases, you don't have a jury trial, but this is a case that would go to a jury and it would be public. Again, I keep bringing up Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but I would expect the gloves to come off and it to be a nasty, nasty spillover divorce case where there's going to be all sorts of allegations that come up. The kids, of course, will be dragged into the middle of this, because we all know this is a lot more than, a chateau in Europe. This is two people that really don't like one another.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not. Well, this is a story that obviously got everybody talking over the past couple of weeks. So Balenciaga has recently dropped its $25 million lawsuit against the producers of their Tasteless campaign. So the fashion house filed the suit against a production company and set designer after its spring 2023 campaign included documents from a Supreme Court case about child pornography. They also faced backlash for a separate campaign that showed children holding teddy bears in bondage outfits. I mean, it's crazy. Balenciaga sued production outfit North Six and set designer Nicholas Desjardins after an ad was, like we said, featured all of these things. And so a rep for North Six and Desjardins denied that they were responsible. There was also an outcry from fashion pros saying the party shouldn't be blamed for a company's ads. Well, Balenciaga's creative director, Demna, broke his silence on the brand's controversial teddy bear ad, saying, "I take my responsibility. It was inappropriate to have kids promote objects that had nothing to do with them." So why file the suit and then drop it so quickly? Because it was basically pretty much like a few days later.
Yeah, what a mess, Christina. And I criticize Brad Pitt's divorce lawyers. And I got to criticize Balenciaga's, first, for approving this in the first place. Second, filing a lawsuit and then dismissing it right away. Sometimes there's a quick rush to judgment and just finger point and blame others. But when your own creative director is accepting responsibility for what happened, then your claims that it's a production company or the set designer that it was their fault, those claims have no merit.
Right. I mean, it's kind of hard to defend, blaming the production set and the designer when I'm sure it went through a ton of other approvals before it was released to the public. So now can that production team and the set designer maybe sue Balenciaga for pointing the blame at them at all?
Of course. If there were any statements made outside of the filing itself, any public statements, they can sue for defamation, right? I mean, this is Balenciaga. This is a huge company. This is potentially defaming their brand, blaming them for, this child pornography and bondage and all sorts of sick and twisted stuff. That hurts those smaller companies. So whatever's in the lawsuit itself, that tends to be protected from defamation under the litigation privilege. You can generally say what you want, but if you say something outside those court documents, those companies can come after Balenciaga.
Yeah, it was interesting in the wording of his statement, though, because he said, "I take my responsibility." So not fully, taking full responsibility for it, but his responsibility. But yes, it was completely inappropriate. So, but it does seem like probably multiple people are at fault here. It's not just the head of the creative director. There was a ton of other people that this had to go through.
Oh, definitely. But whenever you're talking about the creative director, I mean, she's going to be a managing agent of the company. That's an executive. That's a high level person. So when someone like that accepts responsibility, that binds the whole company. This isn't some low level intern who's saying this was my fault. This is an executive. So when an executive said this was me, then that's going to mean, from a legal perspective, that the company is responsible.
Yeah. It's interesting. And a lot of people have noticed that a lot of more celebrities haven't really spoken out about this, haven't dropped their partnerships with the brand. Could that be due to contracts, things like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there may be some contractual agreement that prevents the celebrity from terminating. Usually there are these morality clauses, but they're the other way, right? The company, the fashion company or the brand wants to make sure that they're not associated with someone like Kanye, for instance, that may go off the reservation, right? But usually those are one-sided agreements. It's rare for the company that wants to protect its corporate image and brand to do something so foolish.
So foolish, so crazy. Well, Nima, thank you so much for breaking it all down with me, as always.
Thanks for having me, Christina. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.